Hello, this is Charles M. Carter, and I'm here to talk about pre-K through 12 social studies. Ohio's revised academic content standards for pre-K through 12 social studies were approved in June of 2010 with the intention of being implemented in the 2014-2015 school year. These standards were created by the Ohio Department of Education, or ODE, along with input from educational stakeholders and content experts. As mentioned before, these standards were meant to take hold starting in 2014. The ODE, however, has recommended that teachers begin to introduce these standards as soon as possible. The thinking behind this is that it will better prepare students for both next school year and years to come. In addition to 5 main goals, which will be covered in another section, the new curriculum also adheres to a philosophy and guiding assumptions. The philosophy states that Ohio's social studies content standards incorporate history, geography, government, and economics in order to prepare students to be participating citizens. Social studies, it goes on to say, does the following. Helps students develop the ability to make informed and reasoned decisions for themselves and for the common good. Prepares students for their role as citizens and decision makers in a diverse, democratic society. Enables students to learn about significant people, places, events, and issues in the past in order to understand the present. And foster students' ability to act responsibly and become successful problem solvers in an interdependent world of limited resources. The guiding assumptions are that the new curriculum will do the following. Set high expectations and provide strong support for social studies achievement by all students. Represent the social studies knowledge and skills needed to make a successful transition to post-secondary education, the workplace, and civic life. Are informed by national standards documents. Balance knowledge, conceptual understanding, and skill development. Address significant understandings that are the basis for sound decision-making as citizens. Focus on important social studies topics. Represent a rigorous progression across grades and an in-depth study within each grade. Serve as the basis for classroom and statewide assessments. Guide the development of local social studies curricula and institutional programs. As far as the organizational elements go, these new social studies standards were developed with 5 main goals in mind. These goals are as follows. Identify the most essential concepts and skills. Be more manageable for teachers and to allow students to develop a greater depth of understanding. Clear progression from grade to grade. Create course syllabi for high school courses. Have the standards meet the needs of students in the 21st century. In grades K through 8, organization is made up of strands, themes, topics, and content standards. Strands consist of the 4 areas of social studies: history, geography, government, and economics. Themes entail the focus for a particular grade level or the descriptive narrative of a high school course syllabus. Topics include the separate facets within a particular strand. Finally, content standards are made up of essential knowledge to be learned at each grade level or within each course. As stated before, One of the main goals of Ohio's new social studies standards is to help students develop 21st century skills. To this end, skills focused on will include civic literacy, financial and economic literacy and global awareness, communication, media literacy, and leadership. Additional attention will also be given toward developing historical thinking skills, spatial thinking skills, and civic participation skills. It is in these skills that most real-life applications seem to lie, which I will address later in this presentation. To serve as the basis for classroom and statewide assessments. It's listed as one of the guiding assumptions covered earlier in this presentation. So, traditional standardized and classroom-type assessments would appear to be the primary means of assessment for these new standards. Specifically, the new state assessments are the Ohio Achievement Assessments for grades 4 and 6. Also, tests will be given at the end of the American History and American Government classes. The evaluation of ODE New Learning Standards for K-12 Social Studies will make certain ODE continues to work with educators across the state to develop the model curriculum to support the implementation of the new standards. Overall, I like where Ohio is going with these new standards. For one, I feel as though 21st century skills mentioned in the content standards part of this presentation will help give social studies a greater sense of relevance to students. Many students, I feel, do not look at subjects such as geography or history as having anything to do with their lives or their futures. Historical thinking, for instance, can help students make connections to the past, present, and future. This is an ability I feel is painfully absent in social studies at the moment. Unfortunately, students often fail to draw parallels between the events of the past and current situations. In addition, economic decision-making has obvious applications for students once they enter the workforce. My favorite one of these skills, however, is spatial thinking. To this end, it seems to me as though many students, perhaps especially in our particular area of the country, have a very narrow and small view of the world. Many of them never leave the country their entire lives. Some of them may never even visit a significantly different part of our own country. Personally, I have been fortunate enough to do a fair amount of traveling in my life, and I've learned much by doing so. The world is such a big and diverse place. There is much to learn and observe. There are so many unique cultures with their own way of looking at things. Unfortunately, not all people are blessed with the financial resources, time, opportunities, or as in my case, just plain luck, to be able to travel. Like it or not though, our world is changing and becoming figuratively smaller. Jobs, for example, are being outsourced to other countries, and new technology is starting to be embraced worldwide. As this happens, it seems as though familiarity and comfort with diverse people and cultures will become more and more important. Taking this into account, I think it is more important than ever for students to have proper perspective and realize the size, scope, and diversity of our planet. To do so will help prepare them to function properly in our flattened world.